प्रकाशितं येन तस् नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पुष्टत्वदेशितारिणे वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So recently there are some scholars, you know, going around different groups of organization. They're going to ISKCON, going to Brahma Kumari, going to Arya Samaji, and trying to prove them how they are wrong. Speaking to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, and when you see the content of the discussion, it is more about creating dissensions rather than clarification. वो वाद जो है वो बवंडर को निर्माण करता है, राइट। जब संवाद होगा, संवाद से क्या होना चाहिए? संवाद से समन्वयता होनी चाहिए। एंड देयरफॉर it is explained that when you study the Vedic mantras during the conclusion of the yagyas, right, or beginning of the yagya, यज्ञ के प्रारंभ में, यज्ञ के निष्कर्ष में, जब यज्ञ परिपूर्ण हो जाता है, पूर्णाहुति के बाद, there are a lot of these mantras. So in the Vedas, one of the last ऋक् संहिता में क्या बताया गया है? आपने सुना होगा काफी बार इसको, संगच्छध्वम सम्यध्वम सवो मनसी जानतम देव भागम यथा पूर्वे संजानन उपासते. What does it say? May you move in harmony, speak in one voice, let your minds be in agreement, just as the ancient God shared their portion of sacrifice. You know, and then the next mantra it explains, samano mantra samiti samani. Samanam mana सहचित मेषाम. समान मंत्रम भी मंत्रये भः समानेन वो हविष्य जिहोमि. He says, may our purpose, these are part of yajna, the conclusion of yajna, recitation of the Vedas, तब इसको पढ़ाया जाता है. May our purpose be the same. May we be all one mind. In order for such unity to form, I offer common prayer. What is that? Samaniva akriti samana hirdayaniva. Samanamastu amano yathavo suhasati. May our intentions and aspiration be alike, so that a common objective unifies us all. इसलिए ओम स्वस्तिनो इंद्र वृद्धश्वा स्वस्तिनो पूषा विश्वदा. These are the 10 mantras which are recited. Of the 10 mantras, these 2 mantras are very famous. Om swastina indra vruddhashva swastina pusha vishvaveda. Swasti means what? Stability, right? ओम भद्रम करणे भी शृणुयाम देव भद्रम पश्चिमक्षभिर। हाँ, ये भी आता है। यहाँ ही स्थिरता शांति की चर्चा की गई है। जस्ट लाइक इन द भगवद गीता, when Krishna speaks about नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य नाचयुक्तस्य भावना. Again, one very important principle when we study the our Hindu scriptures, उसका एक मेन इंटेंशन है कि सब जगह में सबको लाभ मिले। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामय, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुख भाग भवेत्। इसको हर एक इसके बाद में पढ़ाया जाता है। नो पीपल रीड दिस, राइट। तो इतना सारे मंत्र, इतने सारे जो स्तोत्र है, इतने सारे वेदों के मंत्र है, हर एक यज्ञ के कंक्लूजन में यू कैन डू एनी काइंड ऑफ यज्ञ। अगर आपने मन्यु सूक्त भी किया, मन्यु सूक्त, मन्यु मीन्स बेसिकली कनेक्टेड टू एंगर, अपने शत्रुओं के विनाश के लिए, धर्म द्रोहियों के लिए, उस समय भी अगर आपने इन मंत्रों को आह्वान किया, मन्यु सूक्त, जैसे बताया जाता है, इट इज एक्सप्लेन्ड दैट भीमा when he was about to kill Dushasan the day before he performed his yajna, invoking anger, उन्होंने क्रोध का आह्वान किया। हाँ, so when you invoke krodha, and then what happens, that basically even in that mantra also there will be the mantra of शांति। वहां भी आप शांति का मंत्र का उपदेश करोगे, राइट। So therefore, basically, when we study carefully the principle of Shanti mantra, what do you see? We see Shanti mantra में हम यही देखते हैं कि इनका उद्देश्य, इनका पर्पस, आप कितना भी डिबेट करो, like I was, taken this mantras from the Veda Sanskriti Parichay, तो उसमें one principle he explains कि जितने भी भारत में अवैदिक वेद विरुद्ध जो मत प्रकट हो गए, जैन हो गए, बुद्ध हो गए, बाद में जो चारवाक महर्षि के, राइट, ऑल दिस पीपल इंक्लूडिंग द लिंगायत, they were openly against the Vedas, right? And when you are against the Vedas, one aspect of being against the Vedas is not to accept Ishwar. Of course, there are some followers of the Vedas, they accept the Vedas, but they do not accept the direct interference of Ishwar. Or they feel there is no point in having Ishwar, because the world is very mechanistic, it is functioning. If you know the art of how to utilize, then it will benefit you everything what you want. If you don't know the art of how to utilize it, it will not basically support your growth. Now, there is some truth to what they are speaking, right? So therefore, for them to deny Ishwar, you can say, okay, we give you some benefit. And if you don't want to accept Ishwar, it's okay. But none of these people, whether it is Jain, whether it is Buddhist, whether it is Nastik, whether it is, whether it is Lingayat, whether it is the Sardar, right? Everybody accept the theory of karma, right? Everyone accepts the theory of karma. Interestingly, so one accepts the theory of karma, then even though they are not accepting Ishwar, they're accepting the laws of Ishwar. Sometimes, like yesterday, I had gone to visit one devotee who lost his wife recently. Um, Very nice devotee. She was Premnidhi Prabhu's cousin sister, Yamuna Lalla Mataji. And they had come, husband had come to, for the Shraddha ceremony. Because within last 2 years, you know, Jagannath Ramprabhu lost his father, lost his mother, lost his wife, who was, they know each other before marriage also, working together, and they got married. They waited for 7 years for the parents to agree because different caste, right? So suddenly she passed away. Maybe 3 days before she passed away, she called saying that, Prabhuji, can you tell my husband this is the reality, that he cannot live in a denial. So there was a greater courage. In fact, the doctor told her that you have very few months to live. And knowing very well that, he was also mentioning, she also called, we were talking, and she was very clear in her articulation. It was an audio call, so her voice was as if I had seen her before when she came to Bombay, maybe around a year ago. And just the day before she passed away, he did a video call just to see in the hospital. And next day before she passed away, maybe 2, 3 hours before, Maharaj spoke to her. And Maharaj said, what a clarity she was able to hear properly just before she passed away. So there was clarity in regards to what is happening and what is coming. So no question of questioning, the very thing came to her. But for the husband, you know, because he went through so much, there was a denial. Right? And the denial is, why Krishna, when we wanted to serve together, right? We wanted to serve together. We did DT worship together. We did classes together. He does a lot of bhakti, uh, bhakti club. He started in Australia. Kafi successful hai. For her cremation, imagine in Australia, 800 people were there. Not a small thing. 800 लोग किसी के अंतिम संस्कार के लिए आना बहुत बड़ी बात है, वो भी ऑस्ट्रेलिया जैसे देश में. Right? And you can imagine being a Gujarati, typical, very, outgoing, nice, very motherly. तो ये प्रश्न काफी लोगों को देखा है मैंने. Amongst devotees, among devotee communities, their conviction Krishna take them to such an extent, consciously, unconsciously, they deny the laws of karma. In lecture, we speak about law of karma, but in reality, sometimes we say, why? Why should it affect? Karma, the philosophy of karma, the reality of karma does not spare anybody. Right? केशित केवलिया भक्त्या वासुदेव परायण, ये सब श्लोक है, लेकिन उसका उसका मीनिंग क्या है? कूट, प्रारब्ध, जो रूप गोस्वामी कहते हैं, इन सारे श्लोकों की, ऑल द श्लोकास, if you use it wrongly with the intention, like one of the greatest uh, misunderstanding we have, that when we take initiation, Guru takes all our karma. Right? Whether it is a technical reality or it is the spirit. Because in the Ramayana, Vashishta Maharshi, when he was speaking to Vishwamitra Maharshi, when Vishwamitra Maharshi asked him to give the great Kamadhenu, Vashishta Maharshi said, it is not possible. I cannot give my piety to you. This is nothing but symbol of my piety. How can I give it to you? Right? When Narad Muni asked Valmiki ji before he became a great saint, he said, go and ask your family, will they accept the load of the karmic consequences? Right? They were, in one sense, uncivilized people, but there was a clarity that we can't take anybody's karma. Right? Bhagwan Narsimhadev, I was telling him, Bhagwan Narsimhadev in the Bhagavatam 7th canto, he explains to Prahlad Maharaj, as he going back to, his own Vaikuntha plane, Bhogena punyam kushalena papam, kalevaram kala javena hitva. And Shukadeva Goswami in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, when some of the gopis were stopped from going, right? They were eager to go and they were stopped from going. What does he write there? All their karma got concentrated. In anticipation of meeting Krishna, all their piety was reduced to nothing. And when they were stopped from going, all their impiety was reduced to nothing. And once you do not have punya and papa, there is no sharir. Yes, physically the body is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether element, but subtly it is made of papa and punya. जिसको शरीर है यानी कि पाप और पुण्य है, और जो शरीर से मुक्त हो जाता है ना, मरने की बात नहीं कर रहे, वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट डाइंग, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट बेसिकली लिबरेटिंग. व्हेन यू लिबरेट योरसेल्फ, यू डोंट हैव अ बॉडी, राइट? So therefore, in one sense, accepting the theory of karma, like we discussed this before also, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he explained, or some Rishi explained to Yudhishthira Maharaj in regards to the realities of world, and especially in regards to the the death, untimely death, or major disease. Do not look for any explanation. You can't say it's Krishna's mercy. By saying it's Krishna's mercy, we are making God cruel, that he takes pleasure in giving suffering to us so that we can become serious in spirituality. In fact, it is discussed in the Vedas. इसकी चर्चा होती है, क्या भगवान, ईश्वर, भगवान कम आता है उधर, ईश्वर किसी को गंभीर बनाने हेतु क्या किसी को रोक देंगे? राइट? Can he be blamed as being cruel for getting good things done? So Mahabharata explains, it is a fact of life. No explanation is required. Right? And imagine when you have that explanation, that you can overcome all your karma just by clapping your hand, just by taking diksha. It is a massive misunderstanding which will cause great pain in the future. Right? अगर किसी को, she was suffering from bone cancer, because there was such a dependence, right? Being very dynamic wife, naturally पति उसके प्रति emotionally and from every perspective निर्भर थे. तो निश्चित रूप से होता है कि मन में प्रश्न आता है, very sincere, very, very nice person, right? He's not, I'm not taking his name, but I'm saying this is the purpose is this is the reality for many devotees. Ki consciously or unconsciously putting so much of load on Krishna and Guru for something which is a point of tragedy in our life. नहीं हटा पाएंगे उसको, आपके बीमारी को दूर नहीं कर पाएंगे, हाँ, या मोर प्रिसाइसली, especially for Ishwar, for Bhagwan, he can do anything, but he will not do this thing. He will not interfere in the working of the karma theory, in the working of the prakriti, right? So therefore, you are requested to focus more on the laws of life, laws of karma. When you focus on laws of karma, then you are more judicious in your thinking. And for practicing spiritualists, especially for a bhakti yogi, what does it do? It gives the greater confidence in relating to Krishna without any of this material aspiration, material need from God. अरे मैं आपके पास इसीलिए नहीं आया हूं, आई एम नॉट हियर विथ यू so that you can change my destiny. The clear understanding is that we are here towards Krishna. We have come to him because we want a relationship with him. उन्होंने सब कुछ दिया. He has given us to handle, right? He has given us to handle the consequences of karma. जो कर्म के जो परिणाम है, the consequences of karma. What is the tool? The tool is the intellectual capacity, the devotional capacity. Your consciousness is raised higher. I give an example. There could be many young people along with her must have passed on that same day, right? They may have had more physical facilities, better resources to manage the pain, but the death must have happened. I said, I guarantee most of these people would not have had such a daring consciousness, right? Where you are ready to live, you are listening carefully. Like our Deepak Barwani, Dayalu Ram Prabhu was also telling about the way his mother passed away. There was a good spirit. The spirit अच्छा था. Complaint नहीं था. पेन हो सकता है. See, we can complain about the pain. अरे इधर दर्द कर रहा है, उधर कर रहा है, unbearable है. That is human. We can't avoid it. But questioning the pain, questioning God for the pain, defying the concept of karma, that is one thing. But defying the concept of karma in the name of Krishna is basically painful at the very outset. What does it do? It disturbs our peace. हमारे शांति को भंग कर देता है. Once शांति भंग हो गई, like as Krishna mentions, नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य नाचयुक्तस्य भावना, right? What does it do? If it is, अगर वो शांति का जो पीस है ना, that peace when you sit on the bank of a river, other than the voice of flowing water, when you experience pleasure in that peace, that means there is some kind of equipoiseness. when you see the rising sun and you are able to be absorbed in that rising sun, like recently, maybe around 4 or 5 months ago, we were in Kanyakumari, setting of the sun. When I had gone 20 years ago, you know, when the mobile phone was not there, people were actually sitting there, peacefully reciting. Somebody was folding hands, some people are doing Gayatri, some people are just watching the whole phenomena of setting of the sun. And then when the sun was set, Jai Surya Narayana Bhagavan ki Jai, they were able to say that. But this time when I went, it was very, very, frustrating. Entire beach, nobody was sitting and actually doing any kind of meditation. सबके सब अपना सेल्फी लेने के पीछे इतना शोर मच गया था, राइट? तो इमेजिन कितनी अशांतता है उनमें. When the phenomenon of sun is setting and sun is rising, which has the power, like it is explained in the Jyotish Shastra, सूर्य देव है ना, सूर्य देव कैनॉट हैंडल नेग्लिजेंस. इसलिए गायत्री का ध्यान होता है. हाँ, वी चैंट द मंत्र ऑफ गायत्री, but still it requires concentration. Yesterday only I was listening to somebody that Lord Narayan is a abharana, Shringara Priya. He loves to be decorated. And Lord Shiva is Abhishek Priya. And Surya Dev, what is Namaskar Priya? Raja hai na. One of the most important, like when the Queen of London, when the servants would go to her to serve her, they had an etiquette. How the servants would enter, the secretaries, how they would enter, what is their body language, in which tone they are supposed to speak. They were trained. जितने भी सेवक थे, however many servants were there, they dare not look into the eyes of the queen. That famous worker from, I think from Agra, right? There is a documentary wherein the queen developed, because it was a lonely life, Queen Victoria, she developed that friendship with him. And this man had the courage to straight look into her eyes. Her correspondence with him was eventually burned by the British Empire. पूरा जला दिया उसको. Right, when the Badshah's letter would come to the king, the vassal kings, the subordinate kings, they would go to the outskirts of their kingdom, and the letter was brought with great honor and respect because it is coming from the Badshah. And when the king had to come down from his simhasan, because the letter was non-different from the king himself, the Badshah himself. Imagine there is so much of, what do you call it as, respect to that position. So similarly, when that great respect is given to the concept, to the philosophy, not denying that, otherwise it becomes very painful, because the laws of nature will always dominate the living entity. It doesn't matter who you are. But where the laws of nature will not dominate is your consciousness. That they cannot dominate if you have the right understanding of the philosophy. Right. तो इसीलिए जब गलत धारणाओं को लेकर हम भक्ति करेंगे, Yes, pain is different. When you are pain, you can ask that question, like Draupadi asked that question to Krishna. She was angry, but she was not technically, like she explains that to Yudhishthira Maharaj, when Yudhishthira Maharaj basically thought that Draupadi is speaking Nastic philosophy. And Draupadi said, hey, I'm not speaking Nastic philosophy. I'm just being angry and upset. That is allowed. आप भगवान के प्रति गुस्सा कर सकते हो, लेकिन you have no right. You may have the right, but the consequence of the right is that you are consciously, unconsciously putting the burden on your Ishtadev, and you are consciously denying the philosophy of karma. Right? Like Bhishma Dev ke prayer mein, aho kashtam, aho bhagyam. He says that kitne sare kashta jhelna pada. And what is it? It is nothing but time. काल और कर्म के साथ में कोई लड़ाई नहीं कर सकता. Nobody can fight karma and kala. The time will take its sweet will to mature something. Right? If we force that, I want to do within 2 years, I want to do within 1 year. If you give deadline to the time will have a boomerang effect. तो इसलिए शांति, peace, even in regards to conversation. The Kumbh का उद्देश्य ही था. Every Kumbh would happen with the intention of people from all over the Bharata Khanda would come and they would churn so much. So for the next 12 years, it's like the place where Gyan Kumbh hota tha, मंथन होता था, अगले 12 साल के लिए क्या किया जाए. Of course, there was no fatwa निकालता नहीं था. It was more of knowledge centric decisions rather than legal centric decision. And that's how the smritis come into being. Smritis are always very dynamic. Smritis are always progressive. Smritis are always, extremely application centric. Right? इधर काफी बात कर रहे थे. Some of us we were talking to Maharaj, दीक्षा को लेकर, इस चीज को लेकर, उस चीज को लेकर. Right? So there are so many dynamics. And all these dynamics, when are seen through the eyes of the laws of nature, even more than seeing through the pure sweet stories of Krishna. Because pure stories of Krishna sometimes cheat you because they give you absorption rather than analysis. और वो analysis के लिए है नहीं. They are not meant to be analyzed. They are meant to be relished. Right? You cannot use the pure karma theory when Krishna is speaking karma mimamsa philosophy to the Brajavasis. That cannot be the truth. That's a joke. So you'll find many things. Right? The gopis are basically criticizing Krishna for killing Vali from behind. Just like Vali himself accused Lord Ram for shooting from behind. In fact, Arjun also did that on the battlefield of Kurukshetra when there was a fight between Yudhishthir and Arjun in regards to undue attachment towards Dronacharya. Like Arjuna blasted his brother Yudhishthir. And part of his blasting, he said, I am not that Ram who shot arrows from behind. All these outbursts are basically allowed. Krishna is standing there. In one sense, Arjuna is directly accusing Krishna of doing something which he boasts that I will never do that. In the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, that Brahman who was, slandering the entire Yadukul for not protecting his newborn baby, right? How much ruckus he makes. But when Arjuna hears that ruckus, he comes out. When he get to know that this is what has happened, Arjuna says, I'm not Vasudev. I'm not Balram. I'm not Ugrasen. I'm Arjun. I can help you. I'll protect you. Right? Arjuna is boastful, and Krishna, interestingly, doesn't, blast Arjun. Krishna allows Arjuna to go through, and then the Lord goes to protect Arjuna from again killing himself. He takes him to the Mahavishnu's planet. Right? तो इसीलिए अगर ये जो कर्म थ्योरी को ठीक से समझेंगे तो हमारी अपेक्षा, our expectation from our superior becomes judicious. Once the expectation from the superior becomes judicious, then we are not upset. And once you are not upset, you are peaceful. Once you are peaceful, then it is easier for you to relish, everything around you. And therefore, when Prahlad Maharaj was told by our great Lord Narsingh Dev, Bhogya na punyam kushale na papam, आपके कोटा का जो सुख है, you cannot make Bhima live the life of Raghunath Das Goswami. वो पागल बन जाएगा. And you can't say, अरे you are not sincere. It is not the question of sincerity. It is the question of reality. Right? He is saying that I need 20 bhakris. Imagine Kunti Mata and all the Pandavas. Kitna sundar hai dekho. They were very clear that in regards to eating and in regards to doing Herculean task, Bhima is great. Ek mata, ek mother, Kunti Devi, whatever food they would get, she would divide that into two parts. One part would go to Bhima, and the second part was divided amongst the five. कितना बड़ा अन्याय है मां के द्वारा एक माता अपने पुत्र के प्रति. A mother is basically, blatantly doing partiality towards one son. No, because they were clear about the nature, the personality, and the need of Bhima. You don't read. One of the great tragedy of the modern world, whether it is amongst the spiritualist or the materialist, we look for a socialistic idea in every aspect of life. I remember when one time when Shyam Sundar Prabhu was coming, Krishnanand Prabhu was doing kirtan in the evening. Who loves chanting, who emphasize on chanting Hare Krishna. And then Maharaj called me and said, stop him and give it to Swarup Damodar. So one may say, how can sincerity is more important than skill? Nahi, right? In presentation, same thing happened with the Vyas Puja offering. When Maharaj's father was coming, somebody else was supposed to speak. He had prepared everything. Maharaj said his diction is not good in English. Ask somebody else to do. तो यहाँ समानता की, there is no question of equality here. Here the preference will always be based upon expertise. And just because somebody expertise doesn't mean that they are less sincere compared to somebody else. Our sincerity is not our qualification for presentation. Our sincerity is a qualification for presentation in front of God, between me and God himself. If the same mantra has to be recited, the same Hare Krishna mantra has to be sung, right? Whom do we choose? Jananivas Prabhu, or for that matter, that somebody like Gaurvadi? No comparison in regards to commitment, dedication, everything. But even Jananivas Prabhu will say, okay, now let him sing. What is this nonsense? You are giving it to me. Oh, Prabhuji, you are the most purest of the pure devotee. We want to hear from you. You may want to hear from him, but the world may not want. He said, अरे क्या लेकर आए आप लोग? क्वालिटी किधर है? हाँ? तो ये जो परिचय, when we have this clarity about all of their aspects, then what does it do? Satya liberates you. सत्य आपके गलत expectations. Satya has the power to destroy our wrong expectations. Once our wrong expectations are broken, or rather, you will not have any wrong expectation. Satya keeps you in the path of no imagination. You become brutal realistic. And with that brutal reality, when you have the sanskara or sanskriti, वहां संवेदनशील भी आ जाता है, right? जब ये संवेदनशीलता, when there is a sensitivity and truth interconnected, then you become extremely peaceful. No, your growth cycle is extremely peace oriented. तो इसलिए प्रश्न उठाना, कंसर्न होना अलग बात है, सरप्राइज होना अलग बात है. Like Maharaj was mentioning Dwarkadish Prabhu. He said, I had spent time with him whole day talking about some proper disciples' health. In the night, he receives the message. Right? Suddenly, he's taken to the hospital. Surgery is done. Brain, सर्जरी हो गया. तो इसीलिए प्रकृति के पास, and therefore if you see, especially Jains, because they do believe in karma philosophy, do not believe in God, there is a much more disciplined life. Those who do sadhana, no, you may not approve of their sadhana, but that discipline of sadhana gives this sattvikta in their life. And that sattvikta, with a human sensitivity, indirectly makes them appreciable. And therefore, as we were discussing from the beginning, therefore, the entire process of the Vedanta philosophy or Veda philosophy is to try to see, similarities in regards to the purpose rather than trying to see the similarities in the process. कोई एक मार्ग लेगा, कोई दूसरा मार्ग लेगा, कोई तीसरा मार्ग लेगा. The process will change. But if the purpose is the same, you may not do shopping around. You may still stick to your process, but you have the courage and understanding, accept the process of others, knowing very well the purpose is the same. Therefore, Krishna again, explains, Ekatvena Prataktena Bhoda Vishvato Mukam. Right? The goal is eventually the same, but the process may be different. And even after achieving the perfection, according to Vaishnava philosophy, even there also there are different varieties. But that variety is part of the detail. But the conclusion, the mukti, the amritattva, is aspired by everybody in the Vedic philosophy. Therefore, सबके साथ में शांति करना आसान बन जाता है. और अगर संवाद भी करना हो तो सम्मान के साथ, giving that, one famous Sri Vaishnava Acharya, quite mean words where he was using for, ISKCON devotees. Somebody was approaching, okay, उनसे बात करना पड़ेगा. I said, how will you approach? because many amongst us also are mean in their observation. Like I had mentioned, that one so-called scholar sitting at the Kanchi temple, he is able to say, अरे शंकराचार्य के मठ को जला के भस्म कर देना चाहिए, राइट? तो कितना अशांति है. You are not even understanding 70 to 80% of Gita commentary of Ramanuja Madhvacharya comes directly from Shankaracharya. Prabhupada's Gita commentary, somebody says, resembles Ramanuja's Gita commentary. Prabhupada said, that is great. If it is resembling his commentary, that means I'm happy. You are seeing the loyalty properly. इसलिए other than 5 to 10% of Shankaracharya's compilation, rest everything makes so much of profound sense. और उनके बारे में इस प्रकार से बोलना कि इसको जला देंगे, ये जिहादी मानसिकता हो जाती है. और जिहादी मानसिकता वो कभी शांति नहीं दे सकती है. वहां केवल संवार चलेगा, अंदर से संवार, बाहर से संवार. Therefore, our निष्ठा in our process should not make us disturb by seeing somebody else's life. Right? इसलिए liberal in regards to your mindset, conservative in regards to your practice, liberal in regards to mindset gives rise to dynamicness in our life, so that we can grow on our own and be respectful when others are growing in their own way. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Yeah. Prabhu, as you were talking about this point on karma, right, which we have discussed many times, that karma is not, you can't transfer, you have to live it out, etc. I was just recalling Prabhupada, he was just before Prabhupada passed away, 1977, in the TKG diary, Ramakrishna Maharaj writes that Prabhupada would call various astrologers to check how much life he has. And many astrologers said many things. In fact, one famous one came and said that till February 1978, your time is very difficult. Very, very difficult things are there where death is, kind of prominent. If you survive this phase, then you may live longer. And, Ramakrishna Maharaj describes that when Prabhupada would hear that, he would be very grave as he would hear astrology description. So what basically strikes is, even someone like Prabhupada, he never thought that karma is destroyed or something, right? I mean, because he has taken initiation, he was sannyasi. Because seeing chart means according to your karma. So he was willing to accept it. Though, one or two people say that, a famous preacher, he was saying that Prabhupada was calling these astrologers for fun. He was, he knew his life is only controlled by Krishna, not by karma. But just for fun, he was calling these astrologers. That I was somehow not willing to take. Another related point, Prabhuji, a question only in this. Like, we see that Satsuru Maharaj writes that when Prabhupada was born, an astrologer said he will make 108 temples. So I was thinking, Prabhuji, even that means to achieve success in a spiritual society, you need karma, right? As in, see now.
Absolutely.
So, for example, someone like Sridhar Maharaj, who was Prabhupada's godbrother, Prabhupada always called him as a very advanced soul only. But in terms of external success, right, Prabhupada obviously had much more success than many of his godbrothers. And what it indicates is, your spirituality is certainly your private thing, but to achieve success in an organization or in the world, you need karma. Is that fair to say? Fair point? Any?
See, that's a very, very brutal truth, which many times, see, the devotional feeling is driven by sentiments, which we have to respect. And one of that sentiment is what? Oh, Krishna is so kind, he empowered him. तो उस समय उस मॉब में हम लोग उसको स्वीकार करते हैं, अच्छा भी लगता है, वो बोलना भी चाहिए वैसा. लेकिन when you go deeper into the reality, sitting back and basically, dissecting it, then you realize, okay, these are the realities. Like, like in the classical homeopathy, like Premnidhi Prabhu studying that. तो क्लासिकल होम्योपैथी में आप जब भी गहराई में जाओगे, देन यू रियलाइज व्हाई लाइक इन आयुर्वेद ना, सिंपल, आपने जैसे व्हाट यू गिव इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट। जैसे आयुर्वेद में अगर किसी को, like, people chant 15 rounds, procreate, and they get a baby, they get a daughter, बोले कृष्णा की इच्छा थी, डॉटर ही होना चाहिए था, इसलिए आई एक्सेप्ट दिस इज कृष्णा कृपा। नो बाबा, अगर एक कृष्ण की इच्छा होती तो कृष्ण आपको कहते कि देन यू फॉलो द एंटायर प्रोसेस ऑफ गर्भदान संस्कार। आयुर्वेद को पढ़ो। सो आयुर्वेद टॉक्स अबाउट द एफर्ट्स मेड बाय ह्यूमन बीइंग्स टू गेट अ मेल चाइल्ड, क्योंकि हर एक हिंदू परिवार में और किसी भी समाज में पुत्र को प्राप्त करना के लिए प्रयास करते थे, और उसमें पुत्री हो गई तो सुख मनाते थे। दे वर नॉट एंटी डॉटर, but there was an efforts to get a male child, right? शास्त्र है उसमें, of course, in the present secular government you are not allowed to do any of those things. Therefore Ayurvedic doctors is not supposed to practice any of that stuff. तो यहाँ आप पुत्र के लिए प्रयास करो। अब पुत्र के लिए प्रयास करते करते अगर पुत्री हो गई, then you know that beyond my effort my karma did not allow me to have a daughter। लेकिन आपने प्रयास ही नहीं किया, अपने आयुर्वेद के सिस्टम को पालन नहीं किया जो अभोवेद है, और बोला कि कृष्ण की इच्छा थी, तो आप गलत समझ रहे हो। आपकी भावना ठीक है, वो कृष्ण की इच्छा थी, आई विल एक्सेप्ट ऑन द ऑन द अभी जैसे परसों somebody passed away, one devotee's mother, and both husband and wife, they were somewhere traveling, and one of the family member, they said, can we, they called me, we are waiting, you want them to wait till we reach. I said, look, what will you do? Because there was a relationship. I said, because you understand the truth, therefore I'm telling you. Otherwise, I generally don't tell, I don't get involved people's sentiments. I said, you may be very close to this lady, but you are far away from her now. So waiting for the cremation till you reach is not good for you and for her, because ये उसका अंतिम ऑफरिंग है। अग्नि में शरीर को अर्पण करना जितना जल्दी हो सके उतना करना चाहिए। that is your contribution to that body. If there is a choice between the son not being around, he may not come for next one day, and some close relatives are there, better that person gets cremation from that close relative than waiting for the son to come for next 24 hours. तो उस समय शास्त्र ये नहीं कहता कि वो पाप कर रहा है कोई शरीर को रोक के। we may not interfere, knowing the sentiments itna ज्यादा है, there is so much of sentiments, and because of that so much of sentiments, we may not speak, but if that relationship is there, then we will basically tell them. What we will tell? कि बाबा देखो, this is the reality, you have to do this. I told, don't do like this, it's good for your mother-in-law to be, the sons are there. I said, this is what I feel. तो इसीलिए जो आपने कहा कि वो the laws of life, the special karma, like somebody is born, you can see कितना भी आप ब्राह्मणों को गाली दो, जीन्स में आने के कारण एक स्पेशल प्रिविलेज बुद्धि को लेकर होता ही है। अगर गौर से देखोगे उनकी जीवन शैली एक अलग प्रकार से होती है। इसका अर्थ नहीं कि बिगड़े हुए ब्राह्मण नहीं है, बहुत सारे बिगड़े हुए ब्राह्मण है, मांस खा रहे हैं, दे आर ईटिंग मीट, दे आर ड्रिंकिंग, दे आर एथिस्टिक पीपल। But even if you go deeper into them, there will be a leader amongst the communists is also Brahman only. नंबूदरी, डांगे, ये भगवान ने नहीं बनाए हैं, ये प्रकृति जनित है। कुछ ना कुछ जीन्स तो रहेगा, 1000 साल तक भी अगर ब्राह्मण बिगड़ गया, कुछ तो ट्रेस रहेगा उसका। जैसे उसने सोचा ना आई वांट टू चेंज, ही विल चेंज। हाँ, तो इसीलिए जितना, एज मच एज वी से, विच इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट, जन्म, व्हाट इज दैट, गुण कर्म विभागश, but it is also says Suchinam Srimatam Ge Yoga Bhrashta Vijayate, 6.40 and 6.41, 6.42. Now the 6.40, 6.41, 6.42 is not good to speak in the most disturbing environment of the modern world, where they look for equality rather than equity. So we should also be smarter where to speak this content. In a general group, we might say yes, ye Krishna ki ichha thi. But when there is a specific smaller discussion, teaching will always happen in a smaller group, and encouragement will happen beyond that technical teaching in a larger group. No? Right. तो ये जो समन्वयता है, ये बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण। But yes, absolutely, without karma, you cannot produce the result. Not possible. No. And because he's using it rightly for the growth of dharma and Krishna, then we can say Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Paravartan. In our own temple only we see somebody very senior person, 20-35 साल से है, कोई उसको पहचानता भी नहीं है, एंड सडनली 5 साल के बाद में गौरांग दर्शन आ जाता है। मनोहर और गौरांग दर्शन में कितना बड़ा अंतर है इन रिगार्ड्स टू व्हेन ही ज्वाइंड, हम्बल है। लेकिन उसको थोड़ी सच्चिदानंद महाराज बुलाएंगे, यू कम एंड डू रिट्रीट विथ मी, और सो दैट इज हिज कार्मिक शरीर, लेकर आया हुआ है। बुद्धि है, बोलने की उत्साह है, किताब लिखने का उत्साह है, मार्केटिंग की इच्छा है, राइट। सो इट्स अ वेरी वेरी क्लियर अंडरस्टैंडिंग। और उसको बोलने का नहीं यार, ही इज मच मोर एम्पावर्ड बाय कृष्णा गुरु, यू नो that is a violent statement in regards to another devotee, just because he is not famous, and that devotee who is not famous, to say that अरे वो तो क्या boastful है केवल, मैं ज्यादा sincere हूँ, because after all if you become very famous you become proud. अरे why like that? If somebody is capable, somebody is confident, कॉन्फिडेंट में दूध देने वाला लात मारेगा ही प्रायशः। यू कांट एक्सपेक्ट मिल्क गिविंग काउज नॉट किकिंग। जो सक्सेसफुल है वो थोड़ा सा आत्मविश्वासी बनकर थोड़ा सा अहंकारी भी बन सकता है। दैट इज द पैकेज सिस्टम ओनली। देयरफॉर इन द महाभारत दैट इज एक्सप्लेन्ड, a sweet speaking brahmana is rarely to be found, but a forgiving brahmana will be found anywhere and everywhere. वो कहते हैं ना, ब्राह्मण के हृदय में क्षमता होती है, परंतु उसकी जिह्वा बहुत कठोर होती है। और क्षत्रिय पॉलिटिशियंस, इट्स मार्वलस, कभी भी द एक्सपर्ट पॉलिटिशियन विल नेवर इंसल्ट हिज वोटर्स। वो किधर भी जाएगा, 4 गाली भी खाएगा, रिटेलिएट नहीं करेगा। वो ट्रू पॉलिटिशियन, हु इज द श्रूडेस्ट ऑफ द पॉलिटिशियन, बट ही कैन एक्चुअली डिस्ट्रॉय एवरीबडी, अपना खुन्नस निकाल के। ये महाभारत में लिखा हुआ। तो इसलिए वर्ण धर्म को, which is born out of your karma, to deny that doesn't make any sense only. That's a reality. I will last question if anybody has.
One more, can you just clarify that thing? See, why I also accept that, like Prabhupada's case, if you go back, there is a statement, Krishna Shakti Vinanai Tara Pravartan, and also he had the karma to open 108 temples as per Chark. Chark means karma.
Yeah.
So some reconciliation. How do you reconcile these two? I mean, more specifically.
Yeah, see, basically he doubted, see, having a karma to be successful, and then like Birla also opened many temples, right? They also opened many temples, Birla Mandir. But here specifically, when doubting that propensity to open the temple to specifically glorify Krishna, I think that consciousness is the empowering principle for a spiritualist. कि मैं करता नहीं हूं, मेरे से कोई तो करवा रहा है और मैं उसके लिए कर रहा हूं. And the Pandavas became powerful, as powerful as Jarasan. But uska, he was also empowered to be famous. He was also empowered to be great. He was also empowered to be ruling large section of the country. लेकिन वहां कृष्ण शक्ति क्यों नहीं थी? वहां वहां प्राण नहीं था ना, चेतना नहीं थी. That is the difference, you know. And again, like अभी जाकिर हुसैन, उसका तबला. But if you talk to him also, he may not be a practicing sadhaka, but there is a lot of devotional aspiration. उन्होंने तबला का वर्णन किया कि what is the role of तबला. बहुत सुंदर है. बोले जब तबला अपने जुगलबंदी कर रहा है अपने आप में, ठीक है, वो परफॉर्म कर सकता है, लेकिन मैंने तबला विल ऑलवेज बी अ सपोर्टिव इंस्ट्रूमेंट फॉर वोकल. बोलो उसको उसको उस पे, you can't he said you are not competing with your the singer, you are basically complementing your singer, you will always be in the background. बोले हम तो हमेशा स्टूडेंट है, विद्यार्थी है. ये जो झलक दिखाई देता ना, जो प्रिंसिपल ऑफ इन्फिनिटी के साथ में कैसा हम्बली डील करना है, दैट इज कृष्ण कॉन्शियसनेस. देयरफॉर प्रभुपाद सेड राइट दैट इन इंडिया एवरीबॉडी इज कृष्ण कॉन्शियस. इसलिए अगर आप आर्टिस्ट लोगों को जो बड़े परंपरा से सीखे हुए हैं ना, उनको अगर उनके चेतना को, उनके व्यवहार को देखोगे, विल फाइंड अरे ये तो बाबा कितना जबरदस्त कॉन्शियसनेस है. दैट मीन्स दे आर एम्पावर्ड टू बी फेमस with proper understanding also.
Thank you. Anybody else has any question?
Yeah, I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you.